1. The complete creepy countdown to Christmas. The creepy countdown to Christmas.
December 1st. The birds. Swallows and wrens are both said to have brought fire to mankind and to have burned themselves in the process. This accounts for the swallow's red breast, and for the robin's too, for legend claims that a robin threw itself onto the burning wren to stifle the flames. The robin's red breast has given rise to many legends through the centuries. One says that the bird was singed while taking water to sinners who were burning in hell. Another, that it wounded itself while trying to lessen the agony of Christ's crown of thorns. It may also have been splashed with Christ's own blood on the same occasion.
Mystical Times blog podcast. The creepy countdown to Christmas.
December 2nd. Witches and Fireplaces. This comes from the book Witches, Giants and a Ghost Cat, A Travel Guide to the Mystery Tales of Dunster by Nina Dodd and Asia Wetherill. Fireplaces were the centre of every household in England, and the chimneys become much more common from the 16th and 17th centuries onwards, leading them to be one of the main passageways believed to be vulnerable to the access of evil forces. Besides hiding protective objects such as shoes, witch bottles and carvings, or burning protective marks onto the mantelpiece, large fireplaces are reported to have been used by local cunning folk to perform their magic in. A description in F. J. Snell's A Book of Exmoor from 1903 describes how a wise woman would stand inside a fireplace and while gazing up to the heavens would incant spells aimed at removing what was ailing the household. Chimneys were strongly associated with witches, and in many parts of England it was said that if the smoke from a fireplace was spilling out into the room, it was because there was a witch sitting on the roof, blocking the chimney.
The creepy countdown to Christmas.
December 3rd. The best time to see fairies. By tradition, the best time to see fairies was at twilight and midnight when the moon is full, and the best days are Halloween, May Day, Midsummer Day, and Christmas Day. Here are 2 accounts of people who have seen fairies. When we were on holiday in Cornwall, my daughter and I came across a winding lane, and all of a sudden there was a small green man, all dressed in green, with a pointed hood and ears. We both saw him. We were cold with terror and ran for the ferry below. It was in 1911 that Mr. Commode from the Isle of Man saw these strange creatures. He said, "What I saw came in 2s and 3s, a great crowd of little beings smaller than Tom Thumb and his wife. All of them, who appeared like soldiers, were dressed in red. They moved back and forth amid a circle of light as they formed into order, like troops drilling."
The creepy countdown to Christmas.
December 4th. The haunting screams. A horrendous train crash which happened in 1957 near to Lewisham Station, caused partly by fog, killed 90 people and injured over 100. It is their cries which can be heard on the anniversary of the accident. Another version of this story says these screams date back to the Second World War.
The creepy countdown to Christmas.
December 6th. Black Dogs. These accounts are from the book Unexplained Phenomena, a Rough Guide special by Bob Rickyard and John Michel. There was a farmer who was on Dartmoor when he heard the footsteps of an animal coming up behind him. It was a large black dog. He went to stroke it, but his hand touched nothing. The creature ran off while a stream of sulphurous vapour issued from its throat. The farmer chased it to a crossroads, where it seemed to explode in a blinding flash, throwing the farmer to the ground. There are strange features of this black dog apparition which link it with other types of phenomena. It has a habit of vanishing in an explosive flash, for instance, and in this detail it resembles the fireballs, will-o'-the-wisps, and corpse candles that are also reported as supernatural happenings. Like them, it is connected to churchyards, crossroads, watercourses, and stretches of old roads. It is also commonly taken as an omen of death. In the Somerset volume of Country Folklore, there is a reference to a black dog haunting a road from St. Audrey's to Perry Farm, which was said that in 1960 to have appeared recently to two people just before their deaths. The luminosity of many black dogs and their evil appearance have caused them to be identified as the devil or his agents.
May your Christmas be full of frights and delights.
The creepy countdown to Christmas.
December 7th. Ghosts that sought justice. In 1760, on the night of December the 7th, Bill Clavers, the landlord of the Ragged Cot Inn at Hyde near Stroud in Gloucestershire, had planned to rob the night coach to London. Having partaken of much Dutch courage, he was about to set off into the wintry night with his loaded pistols, when his wife, who was heavily pregnant, tried to prevent him, and he pushed her down the stairs and ran out into the night. On his return with the ill-gotten gains, Clavers found his wife and newborn child dead at the bottom of the stairs, so he bundled both of their bodies into a trunk. Police constables soon arrived at the Ragged Cot Inn, having followed Clavers' footprints in the snow from where he had held up the coach. Clavers fired at them, but gave himself up when the spectral figures of his wife and child appeared. Clavers was hanged at Gloucester Prison.
The creepy countdown to Christmas.
December 8th. Royal Christmas Entertainment. It was around the reign of King Henry II that there was a court entertainer who was called Roland the Farter. He had 1 gig a year. This was to perform an act called 1 Jump, Whistle and 1 Fart for the King's Court at Christmas. For this one greatly timed act, he was handsomely rewarded. He was given a house, Hemmingstone Hall, and around 99 acres of land in the county of Suffolk.
The creepy countdown to Christmas.
December 9th. Yule logs, candles and Christmas trees. One of the earlier rites celebrated at this time of year was the Norse Yule sun worship festival. Yule logs and Yule candles become a traditional part of Christmas, symbolising the Northern European custom of the candlelit Christmas tree, which was believed to shelter the woodland spirits when other trees lost their leaves. There is a 15th century account of a Christmas tree set up in a London street, although Prince Albert is usually credited with having introduced the custom into the English home in 1841.
The creepy countdown to Christmas.
December 10th. Future loves. A widespread Christmas tradition was for a would-be bride to visit a woodpile after dark, bringing back an armful of logs to the fireside in her home. These would not be counted until the next morning. If it was an even number of logs, she would be married within a year. But if the number of logs was an odd number, this would mean she would have to wait longer.
Subscribe, like, and share.
The creepy countdown to Christmas.
December 11th. The Groaning. It was near Christmas in 1928 when the Whitefield Tabernacle, an old Methodist meeting house in Kingswood, Bristol, was holding a bazaar. It was to be held on a Saturday, and the organisers had appointed an older gentleman, Mr. J.B. Taylor, to act as night watchman on the Friday night. A group of the organisers were waiting for Mr. Taylor to show up that evening, and this was when they heard 3 distinctive groans that seemed to come from the gallery area in the hall. There was no sign of Mr. Taylor, so the organisers locked up the property for the night and went home. It was later learnt that Mr. Taylor had collapsed and died at home, and it happened at precisely the same time as the groans were heard.
Happy Spookmas. The creepy countdown to Christmas.
December 12th. The yew tree. The yew tree was a sacred tree in most old European mythologies. Many Christian churches stand on the site of a pagan yew grove because the tree may live for over 1,000 years. It was a symbol of everlasting life, and its branches were used to line newly dug graves. Yew trees were also planted in churchyards to protect them from storms that were believed to be raised by witches.
Bah, humbug.
The creepy countdown to Christmas.
December 13th. The Despairing Ghost. It was in the early 1930s in Streatham, where an elderly married couple, a Mr. and Mrs. Robertson, lived in a rather large house. The house was getting too big for them to maintain, but Mr. Robertson really loved being in the room he called his den and spent many happy hours in there, attending to his hobbies or just reading the newspaper in solitude. A cinema company offered to buy the Robertsons' property as it would be the perfect location for one of their cinemas. The Robertsons refused the offers they received from the cinema company, until Mrs. Robertson persuaded her husband to accept a very high offer. It was around Christmas 1933, and the cinema had been built, so they had a fireman come round and inspect the premises after the last show. It had gone a little past midnight when the fireman entered the tea lounge, when he saw a figure approaching him. Thinking it was a burglar, the fireman turned on his torch. The torchlight showed the figure to be that of an elderly man with a wizened face and a short beard, and he was dressed in an oversized long white nightshirt. This figure headed towards the stairs, which led down to the vestibule, so the fireman followed it. As he did this, the heavy closed doors leading to the stalls suddenly swung wide open. The fireman witnessed the figure float across the orchestra pitch, and then it landed behind the footlights in front of the curtain. The apparition turned to face the fireman whilst holding its hands aloft and crying in a husky voice, "I won't sell, I won't sell," before completely vanishing. Word got around about this ghostly spectre, and one of the adult nephews of the Robertsons said he believed this ghost was that of his uncle. He had worn an old-fashioned long white nightshirt, and that where the spectre had cried out had been the exact spot where his den had once been. The fireman had known nothing about the Robertsons, nor had he known of what had stood there before the cinema.
Merry Creepmasses.
The creepy countdown to Christmas.
December 14th, Christmas treats. A Christmas tradition which harks back to pagan belief is said that a wish while mixing the Christmas pudding will only come true if the ingredients are stirred clockwise. A flaming Christmas pudding, which as a stiffened form of earlier plum porridge, was introduced in around 1670, and mince pies were also enjoyed in the 16th century onwards.
The creepy countdown to Christmas.
December 16th, Superstition and Rituals of Boats. Rituals and superstitions surround the launching of a boat. A sacrifice has to be made to the sea gods, so when a large ship is christened, a bottle of champagne is sacrificially smashed against the bow. Scottish fishermen use whiskey for the same purpose, and sometimes barley is sprinkled over a new boat. It's also believed that a boat should be launched only when the tide is flowing, and that she should not be named until she is afloat. Within living memory, the luck of fishing boats was regularly renewed, usually at Christmas or in the New Year, by carrying fire around them in the harbour. This purified them and protected them against ill-wishing by hags and witches.
The creepy countdown to Christmas.
December 17th, the Gargoyles of Winchcombe. St. Peter's Church of Winchcombe boasts some of the most grotesque gargoyles in the Cotswolds. There are 40 of them in total, some representing demons, ghouls and ghastlies, while the remainder are caricatures of people who lived thereabouts at the time the waterspouts were carved.
The creepy countdown to Christmas.
December 18th, the last hanged man. Eli Hatton was the last man to be hanged in chains from the gibbet on Pingaree Dump, near Mitchell Dean, in the Forest of Dean. After his execution for murder in 1732, Hatton's body was left in public view. Eventually it reached such a stage of decomposition that traders in Mitchell Dean Market protested that flies from the corpse was tainting their meat. The corpse was then removed.
Merry Creepmas!
The creepy countdown to Christmas.
December 19th. The Invisible Guest, and this short encounter comes from the book The Haunted Cotswolds by Bob Meredith. Some years ago, a married couple lived in a building on Barton Street in Tewkesbury. It was on one afternoon that the wife was in the kitchen working, and she heard heavy footsteps walking towards the downstairs toilet. She heard the sound of the toilet door open and close, and after a short while the toilet flushed. She opened the kitchen door and looked out, but could see no one in the toilet or in the corridor leading to it. So she thought it had been her husband. So she went into the lounge to talk to him, only to find him fast asleep.
You're watching the Mystical Times blog podcast.
The creepy countdown to Christmas.
December 21st. The Mistletoe Widow. There are many local tales of the Mistletoe Widow, so I'll share with you this one from Gloucestershire. This version was scrawled in a ledger of the Black Bear Inn, written by the alewife of the pub. This tale was dated around the year 1792. By the banks of the Severn, where the willows weep into cider vats, there was a pressman called Elias, whose hands could coax nectar from the sourest of scrump. He wed young Mab, a lass with eyes like perry foam, and a laugh that coaxed the first frost to melt. Their orchard, Bow's End, sprawled across 10 acres of gnarled bramleys and russets, crowned with mistletoe balls, fat as Yule puddings, harvested at solstice with golden hooks, never iron, lest the sap turn to poison. On their wedding eve, December the 21st, the village gathered the wassail, mugs of steaming roasted apples, a float in ale called lamb's wool, and boughs hung high for luck. Elias, merry with flip and fiddle, dared Mab to a game amid the trees. "Hide thee in the mistletoe, love," he teased, "and claim thy kiss from the highest sprig." She scampered off, veil trailing like cider smoke, and clambered into the great oak at the orchard's heart, an ancient, lightning-scarred giant, whose crown was a nest of mistletoe, berries gleaming like forbidden jewels. But the bough, sacred to the old ones, betrayed her. As she reached for a cluster of whispering charms for a fruitful marriage, the limb cracked like a wishbone. She plummeted into the hollow below, where the tree's heart had rotted to a natural crypt, lined with fallen leaves and the bones of wassail beasts. The snap echoed like a dropped tankard. The revels hushed. Elias searched till dawn, calling her name till his voice broke on the river's murmur. They found her 3 days hence, when the first fall wept from the branches, curled in her bridal white, and a sprig of mistletoe clutched in her stiff fingers, berries crushed to her lips like a final unspoken vow. Elias never pressed cider again. He buried her under the oak, but on the next solstice, as he hung the boughs for market, A chill wind carried her voice. The fruit is mine, and so is the frost. From then on, he wandered the orchards as the mistletoe widow, his beard gone white as apple blossom, his eyes hollow as cider dregs, clipping the parasite not to sell, but to hoard in a widow's veil, woven from willow bark. He would appear at farm gates on the 12 nights, offering sprigs to newlyweds. Kiss if ye must, but mind the drop. Those who took them found their apples barren next season, or their babes born with eyes the colour of mistletoe white, pale seers who dreamed of falling boughs. In time, Elias faded into the Severn's mist, but his shade lingers. Gloucestershire folks say, if you wassail at dawn on the 21st, listen for the creak of branches. It's the widow pressing his grief into every barrel, ensuring no joy ferments without a tang of sorrow.
The creepy countdown to Christmas.
December 22nd. The Black Death. An outbreak of bubonic plague was said to have originated in China, reached England in 1348. So virulent was the visitation, it wiped out a third of the total population in the country. Many rural settlements disappeared altogether, including 200 in Gloucestershire. December 23rd. The pantomime butterfly. Shortly after his father died in 1948, Frank Maddox, who was the manager at the Theatre Royal in Bath, took over the direction of the Christmas pantomime for that year. The feature of the pantomime was a butterfly ballet, which consisted of girls dressed as tortoiseshell butterflies, with a large, illuminated tortoiseshell butterfly as a centrepiece. During the performance, a real tortoiseshell butterfly appeared and flew around the theatre. The strange part of this story is that every year since then, with the exception of 1962 to 63, the year of the Great Freeze, the annual pantomime had been graced with the presence of a real live tortoiseshell butterfly. The butterfly has even been photographed by the local paper, sitting on Frank Maddox's shoulder. Frank Maddox believed this butterfly was sent to convey a spiritual message to him, possibly from his late father.
The creepy countdown to Christmas.
December 24th. The White Lady of Worstead. This comes from Weird Norfolk and Evening News 24. In the village of Worstead, there is a story of a white lady, a ghost who is said to either heal or scare people to their death. Her ghost has been mainly seen around Christmas Eve, though it's said she can be seen at other times of the year too. It was in the 1830s when villagers retold the story of the White Lady, a ghost that only appeared around midnight on Christmas Eve at St. Mary's Church. It was said that a man who was drinking with his friends in the nearby King's Arms said he wasn't afraid of any white lady, and that he would ring in the birth of Christ at midnight himself to prove it. He laughed as he told the onlookers that if he saw the ghost, he would offer her a kiss. He made his way out of the pub and headed towards the church. His friends waited at the pub and listened out for the church bell to be rung. Time passed, and no bell was heard, so his friends hurried over to the church to see what happened. They found their friend collapsed in the bell chamber, and the man managed to say, "I've seen her," before he passed away. Had he managed to see her and offer her a kiss? Or was it the ghost that gave him the kiss of death? We now go to the year of 1975, and it was on a hot summer's day that a Mrs. Diane Berthelot, her husband and 12-year-old son, visited the church. They had not heard of the ghost that is said to haunt the church. They were on holiday in the area and went into St. Mary's to escape the summer's heat. Diane had been suffering from an ear infection and had been taking antibiotics to help heal her. Her husband and son went to explore the interior of the church, where Diane took a seat on one of the pews and silently said a prayer to help further aid her recovery. Diane was quietly reflecting on her prayer and felt a sense of warmth and comfort. Unbeknown to her at the time, her husband had taken a photo of her whilst she sat there. It wasn't until Diane was showing her holiday photographs to her friend that they saw the white figure sitting behind her in the church. Diane said she felt a tingling sensation and said this sensation was pleasant and gave her a feeling of comfort. This sense of feeling would happen to Diane whenever she saw the photo, and it went on for a few good years. When the family returned to the area on their next holiday, Diane took the photo to the vicar of St. Mary's to show the then vicar. He was to then tell Diane about the legend of the White Lady, and there had also been talk of the White Lady being a healer. Diane had made many more trips to the church, but never experienced the White Lady there again.